Hey everybody, Conscious Medium Brandon Ross, and you may have heard this guy right here is in a little bit of hot water. I'm going to take a look at the chart from the 8-8 Lionsgate and compare it to Mr. Donald Trump. You know, I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about comeuppance. I think we're going to talk about how do we get here. I think we're going to talk about what's coming up next. Stay tuned as we take a look at Donald Trump and the Lionsgate. It's time to pay the bill that's due. Here it is. All right, everybody, welcome back. Conscious Medium Brandon Ross here. First of all, a couple of news and notes, corrections. I errantly posted a video yesterday that had wrong data on it. And I want to apologize to everybody that really, really loved that video and really, really had put a lot of stock into it. I want to thank New Moon, this subscriber that pointed out the flaw. As it turns out, I hit 1964 instead of 1946. And as much as that was a very interesting video, this one, the water got hotter, but New Moon, thank you so much for calling me out on this. I want to apologize for Donald Trump for putting any misinformation out there. I would hate to see anyone do such a thing to another person. I also think that I'm standing here, asking you to, out of the kindness of your heart, to simply understand that it was a human error. I'm owning it. I'm correcting it now. So my apologies for essentially saying to you that Uranus is going to get a heavy dose of Jupiter. That was the wrong chart, and I want to apologize. But I think by the time we're done with this one, you're going to wish I just stayed in that mistake, because this chart is not any better. As a matter of fact, there are some elements here, less social upheaval, a little more personal upheaval. And if you're following along, just to kind of set the stage, and those of you that know this about me, so again, Donald Trump, please accept my apology. This is what grown-ups do when they do something wrong. It's a heartfelt one, because I'm a professional. I like to think that the work that I do is this important. You guys can talk about it being woo-woo and dismiss it. Of course you're going to do that. You take things like the Constitution and wipe your ass with it. And, just because you're a jackwagon doesn't make you a bad person. But you're still a jackwagon. For me, my standard is to get it right. And that's why I do pay attention to the comments. I do pay attention to the messages and the notes and that sort of thing. I might not always have a time to respond to them, but this is one where it hits my core and it's my foundation. I want to get these right. I owe it to the viewers. I owe it to the subjects. I owe it to Donald Trump to get this as right as my capacity shows. And I made an error. So that's a full retraction from the video that I posted yesterday. I will donate all of that to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Any money that I do receive from that particular video, I will donate it to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And I'm going to double it, because I'm also going to support my local adoption agency, county work. That's here local. So I'm going to do it both, because you've done a little bit of damage to both. So I'm going to take what's good from that, a la Alex Jones. Instead of putting it in my pocket, I'm going to actually donate it out. By the way, guys, it'll be a couple of bucks, but it's not substantial. I'll make sure it's right, and I'll do it in honor of Donald Trump, just because. So let's get to the chart. And one more thank you. Thank you to the other people that supported me behind the scenes. So, dude, it's a mistake. Just go do it. I was ready to, commit Harry Carey. I'm like, I can't believe I did this. Well, I'll tell you why. I was rushing to print. I wanted to make sure I got it out there. I wanted to be first. Well, ego, sit down. All right. Speaking of ego, sit down. Welcome to Donald Trump's chart, everybody. This man is getting put in the timeout chair, and it is a big, big lesson. Will he learn it? Will he do the right thing? Well, here we go, everybody. Taking a look at the Trump chart, and let's just make sure we have the date right. June 14th, 1946. He was born at 10:45 Eastern Time. The fact that we have his birth time is really important, by the way, guys. If you've seen some of my other charts lately, I've been very frustrated that I don't have a birth time. But anyways, we have that. We're going to run with that gold right now. When you take a look at the inner wheel here, that's his natal chart. He's really heavy in the 10, 11, 12. He's got a little bit of action in the 2. We're going to talk about that Libra energy in the second house right now because of some of the things that are going on. But when you take a look at his chart, just a really quick synopsis, he's got politician, entertainer. He's actually more of an entertainer. He's not a politician, guys. Because when you take a look at where his Neptune is, his Neptune's in his second house. He's going to be delusional about the conjunctions that he has, the connections that he has. So it's sitting there in Libra. He thinks Putin's a nice guy. He thinks we've got the deal of a century. He thinks blah, 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 blah. He's also right there to Jupiter, and he can't help it. Although it's a wide conjunct, it's still a conjunct. Again, this is in his personal natal chart. So some of his tendencies are going to be delusions of grandeur. That's basically what that is. Right? In terms of relationship, like, oh, I know this guy, I know that guy. It's kind of like, oh, hey, let's not knock over the screen yet. Holy Toledo, what the heck happened here? By the way, do you like the new studio? Not how I wanted to supply it. By the way, this is symbolism for the hermit. This is, the light that you hold within, if there's a bustle in your hedgerow. And then, of course, a little bit of love. Give a little bit. Anyways, welcome. I want to call it the love studio, but that's a little weird. Anyways, back to Donald's chart here. His 12th house, I mean, come on. Why not, why wouldn't we talk about Pluto? Why wouldn't we talk about Mars? And why wouldn't we actually talk about Saturn sitting here in the 11th house where his power base is working with other people, right? It is, and I'm setting a primer here because I'm coming up to what's going on astrologically. In the 11th house, he's got this Venus, his self-love, really, right? His Mercury, his communication. And, of course, Saturn sitting in there. When you typically see Saturn in the 11th house, it means that you're able to network, like your foundation is based on other people. That's where the entertainer part comes in for me. That's also where the, hey, I'm really well liked, I'll get the deal done, kind of a Godfather-ish type of feel. Again, I'm setting him up for later on in this conversation. Again, I apologize I said something incorrect about you earlier, but I'm about to nail it. So the 11th house has this ripe activity. When used for good, makes him world renowned. When used not for good, means that there might be enemies at the gate. Because then taking a look at the 10th house, he's going to be all about business. When you read any of his information, whenever you talk about anything connected to Donald Trump, he's always talking about business. His children are about his business. His wives have always been about his business. There's always the exploit of whatever it is that there's a connection with, right, to his business. So those are the 3 main aspects to what's going on here, of his chart in a summary. By the way, if you want to see the entire video of Trump, it will actually be up in about 6 days. And there was a reason why I picked this date, by the way. And you'll see a little bit of the snippet out on the public side of it, but the membership that you can now subscribe to, become a member. You'll see all the exclusive, elongated content. By the way, these videos are about to get shorter in the public, and behind the scenes will be the real gold. So anyways, now let's take a look at what's going on astrologically with the 8-8 Lionsgate. If you haven't had a chance to check out that video, please do so now. I talk about the tarot and kind of how that's connected. There's a brief explanation about what goes on with the energy of that, our connection with Sirius, and really about our mission here on Earth. And we do have a mission. Whatever your diatribe is, whatever your faith is, we are born out of the creation of a higher being, whatever that might be. This isn't a religious class. This isn't a creationism class. But this is a conversation about recognizing that our connection with Sirius comes through the Great Pyramids in its alignment with Orion's belt, particularly with Sirius, to know that we have a connection with a higher being. So that energy is opening up what is known as the 8-8 or Lionsgate portal. By the way, when the pyramids were built, they did not have the Gregorian calendar, everybody. They still knew the date. Just to let you know, the 8 is somewhat significant, right? But here we go. So the sun is obviously here in Leo. It's also in conjunct to the rising. And we're really we're getting a double dose of Leo energy right here, right? We're really getting it's like, hi, I'm Leo. And then Leo shows up and goes, hi, I'm also Leo. So now you got to deal with 2 Leos. So that aggression is also, by the way, Leos tend to be kind but assertive, right? So there is a gentle energy to a Leo. Like if this was Aries, it'd be like, nope, 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 nope. If it was Sagittarius, half a chance that it might not even happen. But here's where Sagittarius shows up in this. We've got a triple fire moment here. This is a triple fire moment, right? So you've got the moon in conjunct with the moon to his natal to the transit chart. And again, I chose about 7 a.m. in the morning. That was when the search warrant was actually notified. By the way, don't believe anything that's coming out of, oh, we've been raided. They had information, they contacted the Trump camp, and his lawyer was present for the seizure. That is not getting raided. That is cooperation. If he just said I was cooperative, great. Why is he playing the martyr here? Why is he going martyr? It's in his chart. That's why. So this moon on moon, he thinks he can kind of be a sycophantic energy. By the way, Sagittarius is the most addictive sign in the chart. Sagittarius also has rose-colored glasses on all the time. They never really truly see reality aside from external forces. So you have his natal moon along with the natural moon, the transit moon happening earlier in the day. That is just a conjunction of like, you know, we're gonna kind of gently rip you apart. This could have been worse, Donald. It could have been way worse. That moon actually saved you. I'm also gonna tell you it's your out card, but I'm gonna talk about that in a second. A couple of other aspects in conjunction is the Venus sitting here in Cancer, both in the 11th house, right? So you've got that dynamic going on, right? So you're in a position where your self-love and your protective love is there. But guess what we have on the other side of this? We basically have a wide conjunct Venus and Uranus. Venus is at about 10:30 if you're looking it up. And then opposite of that is Capricorn, Pluto at about 4:30. That is creating a tension and a dichotomy. I know it's a little bit wide, aficionados. I know you like to call me out on that stuff. I'm okay with it. But it's still a wide conjunct. And you're also talking about an outer planet here. So there's a little more leeway. If this was Mercury in opposition, I'd be like, well, you know, the effect has started to wane, right? The inner planets tend to move a little bit quicker in terms of its effect, but it's a little more potent. But this is a big time shift. This is a big time thing because as it's sitting here in the 11th house, this is like he loves his people. He loves America. You know, he loves the good people of everything. And trust me, I've seen everybody else and these are the biggest and the best. Well, guess what? This is him losing his base. This is him having that sycophantic love, which, by the way, look at his natal chart. His natal chart has Venus in it, right? Venus is back in the transit chart, but instead of having power, his power is being taken away. And by the way, there is a very wide conjunct here with, actually it's about 15 points. So it would be in his natal chart, Venus and Pluto actually are a wide conjunct. Now they're in opposition. That's why shit's hitting the fan for him. The people who he thought was in his camp are no longer in his camp. I'm going to summarize this in a second, but I want to point out Saturn. Take a look at Saturn in the conjunct. It's at about 3 o'clock. Oh, by the way, the angle chosen here was 22-22. That's a double 11-11. That's karma, everybody. That is absolute karma. So, Saturn in Aquarius at a divine angle of 22-22. That's also an 8, everybody. A lot of 8s, a lot of manifesting. If Aquarius represents the greater good, and 8 represents manifestation, the greater good has been manifesting this comeuppance for some time. By the way, notice how I'm not saying anything about his politics. I'm talking about his behavior. Big difference. So in the 6th house is currently Saturn, which is in opposition to the sun. He is losing his power base, and being the 6th house to the 12th house, this talks about internal enemies, everybody. That Venus, and the loss of, and by the way, it's not a wide conjunct. I would probably say this is edging towards one of the more gentler angles, not quite square, but we've got some squares here. I'll point them out here in a second. But you've got this sincere dynamic, right? Where you have this, oh my God, moment in all of this. I think his family turned him in. I think his family turned against him. I think you're going to hear some things about Ivanka. I think you're going to hear some things about Melania. I'm not sure that the sons are necessarily part of they're too diatribe-ish, but I wouldn't be surprised if they turned Cain and Abel here. I would not be surprised. Their father taught them how to survive. This man is teaching them how to survive. And if this is the survival, well, then all of a sudden we turn into Han Solo and Ben Solo. Can't you just see Eric sitting there going, I know what I have to do. I just don't know if I have the strength. I just don't know if I can go through it. And then he lights the lightsaber, puts it through DJT, and it's over. That's kind of what this chart looks like. I told you it didn't look any better. It actually looks worse. Because there is clear deception in his home. Maybe Melania's just like, listen, free Melania. I've heard it enough. I'm done. Right? It could be somebody within the White House camp that basically said, oh, I don't want to go to jail for the rest of my life. You know what? The son of a bitch did it. Check his toilet. This is this energy. This is everybody turning against you at once, too, by the way. I don't think the power base is going to be there. There's always going to be the people that are going to be like, oh, yeah, there you go. And then they're talking about, the polls are up. He went from 20% to 21%. I think we got a chance. Come on. Fool me once, shame on me. Shame on you. Fool me twice. There you go. You know the rest. So the other aspects that I really want to kind of point out to all of this is, and if you have a chance, check out the Liz Cheney video. Because what I'm actually about to talk about is the lesson at hand here. Right? Oh, and by the way, in his 10th house, where his 10th house is very strong, his North Node is there, right? But do you see this conjunction that's actually happening mostly in his 9th house, which is lessons, education, higher learning? He's got Mars kind of creeping into the 10th house, which is basically like he's got a battle on this professional end. But it's still in conjunction. It's a wide conjunction, right? And you've got Taurus energy. Oh, by the way, look at all his Tauranian energy, right? He's all about making sure that this comeuppance, right? He agreed to this contract when he came into this life. He knew he was going to learn lessons. He had the opportunity to do something very magical, and he's not doing it. Will he do it? Well, I don't know. He doesn't have a good track record. He's got a 70-something year track record of saying, it wasn't me. Those aren't my files. Those were here when I got here. Like, he's just got excuse after excuse, right? At some point, you have to own one part of this. Just one part of it. And everything else would fall into place. But what this conjunction means for him, the Mars, Uranus, North Node, is that this is energy due. This is 100% energy due, right? You also have this conjunction with the 10th house. It appears half in the 9th house, edging into the fight is in his political career. But the lesson is very clear to me. He's learning a life lesson here, probably because nobody has ever told him no. Well, guess what? The DOJ said no. The FBI said no. They didn't even trust the Secret Service to tell them, everybody. They figured out his game on another level. And as much as they talk about how he was being investigated by the archives, and by the way, the reason why he was being investigated by the archives is because he took something like 500,000 pieces of paper and transported them to Mar-a-Lago so they would be safe. That's not his job. His job was to just leave them there. So when he's claiming ignorance over everything under the sun, he's never had a job, so he doesn't know what it's like to clean out his desk. He's full of crap. This is a willful intent to circumvent anybody that would ever find anything on him. And he is making the conspiracy theorists go absolutely freaking bonkers. because they're like, when is this going to happen to you? Well, until you lead an insurrection, this won't happen to you, right? Oh, well, they could easily plant evidence. They don't need to, guys. He made phone calls to electors to try and switch it. By the way, I'm going to be very pro-human here in a second. So stay tuned. Don't just click off and be like, oh, he hates Trump. That's not actually what I'm saying. Because when I give you my take on Trump, I think you're going to understand where I'm coming from. But what he's going through right now, and the detractors and the deflectors are only going to talk about, well, you should investigate Biden, you should investigate Hunter, and blah, 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 and Pelosi. You know what? You should. We really do deserve to live in a country where our politicians are transparent. Something's fishy about Hunter Biden. I get it. And if half of what they say is true, the dude should be in jail. Let's go through the investigation and either exonerate him or crucify him. But this by proxy thing that might get in our way to do the proper work with Donald Trump is bullshit. Get it out of the way. It's a mutually exclusive thing. It's kind of like saying, did you just steal an apple? And then have the retort of rainbows. That's basically their argument. Here's the saving grace for Donald Trump. Some life advice, my friend. Feel free to call me, 45. He can still do the right thing. It's in his chart. By the way, to do the right thing or the wrong thing is almost in everybody's chart. He has this Neptune energy in the 8th house. He's been figured out. The 8th house is sitting here saying other people's money, and I'm just going to focus it on money, not the sexual and not the intimacy and not the death part of it. But the Neptune part of this, the dreamy part of this, the part that allows him to live under the illusion, is what's getting ripped out from underneath him. If he can have a cold, sobering moment with him in just a mirror, it will be an amazing day for him. Because his communication, the communication house right now is in the 1st house. He can really identify with himself and say, I kind of sort of did the wrong thing here. I shouldn't have taken those files. You're right. I'm glad they came and got them. He doesn't have to admit anything. He just has to say, oh, I didn't realize that. He'll blame somebody else because he can't take personal accountability. And by the way, if anybody was to ever advise him to say something like, oh, you need to get rid of these files, who would say, oh, just take them home? There's a big smoking gun here, guys. This isn't in a vacuum. And oh, by the way, there's grand jury testimony that how this works is somebody says something grand jury, which is closed to the public. They can then act on anything that they find within that to continue an investigation. This has nothing to do with the National Archives. Do not believe that part. They would just assume push a dialogue that fits a narrative so he doesn't run. And here it is, everybody. He's going to run. All of this stuff went down in the 9th house, which is about higher education, the lessons that you learn, and travel. This guy's going to run from the law. I'm just telling you this right now. I've been steadfast with this. Dubai, Moscow, Bali. There are so many places that are far-reaching enough that he could get away with being free for the rest of his life by getting hung up on legal proceedings or whatever, and create a vacuum for himself, full of former USA models. Because Melania's not putting up with this. Yes, I'll do Melania's chart. But there's an aspect here where if he does the right thing, and this is where he has it, he has to break away from the illusion. By the way, Neptune is in opposition to him right now. He was born with Neptune in his 2nd house. So he has this illusion of stability, this disillusion of stability. Well, Neptune sitting in the 8th house is a cold, sobering moment. Stone cold, sobering moment. That was a Roger Stone joke, by the way. He has to sit his people down and say, guys, I got to deal in reality for a little bit. Thank you for riling me up. Thank you for bringing me on a journey. Well, listen, for the love of God, you can still do the right thing because Chiron he was born with it in his 2nd house in Virgo. That's about doing the right thing at the end, guys. As an American, I can't not disclose that filter. I was a registered Republican for almost 42 years. I changed because my hometown politics was nothing but Democrat. And I needed to pull that card out so that I could vote in primaries because I didn't like what was going on. But when I vote, I don't look at the ticket. I look at who's going to do the best job, who's the most qualified. And by the way, in the 2016 election, I literally looked at it and went, you're kidding me, right? And listen, this isn't about grandstanding on the political nature of it. I'm telling you my process and my bias. It's time for us to really change. People like Liz Cheney are the beat that you need. Somebody that's just going to tell the truth and not put it in their pocket. By the way, she's also got to break a family cycle with that. I'll call that out hard. You also need leaders that are willing to know their role. Somebody like Peter Buttigieg, who has been calling for the pull of the Electoral College for almost 5 years now, and probably beyond that. But he got public about it about 5 years ago. We don't do this right, guys. We are going through a Pluto return, and this is our opportunity to get it right. Let's start identifying leaders. And you might not like them ideologically, but for the love of Pete, are you going to bring up every single traffic ticket that they've ever had when they're trying to pass a constitutional law to make sure that somebody's rights are secured? We have got to get this right. Donald Trump has an opportunity to set the tone. The future of the country really is at hand. Donald Trump is either going to be a pawn in the game of bringing things to light, or he could be the knight in shining armor that says, you know what, guys, you're right. I use this and it should never happen again. He's going to have to swallow his ego. He's going to have to look hard in the mirror, and he's going to have to issue a lot of heartfelt apologies. My advice, start with Melania. Start with Barron. Start with your kids. Let them know that maybe what you taught them wasn't the best. It was the best you knew how at the time. But for the love of Pete, you have this wake of disaster behind you. Chaos. He has chaos in his chart. He has his North Node and Uranus in conjunct with his sun. He was born into chaos. He was destined to bring chaos in the 10th house, by the way. I pray for this country. I pray for Donald Trump. Because underneath it all, this confused-looking guy that's manipulated the flag, the Constitution, its constituents for the last, I don't know, how long has he been in public life? It's one thing when you're selling stuffed crust pizza. It's another thing when you're talking about immigration and separating children from their families and deep sixing education rules and pushing an agenda that he couldn't even hold the Bible upright. He told you to inject yourself with Clorox to get rid of a virus. He is chaos central. By the way, Chiron is currently sitting in Aries. And if I'm going to guess at this, I'm going to say it's probably in Aquarius. Because I know we just went through Aries and we had a brief time in Pisces. It's either in Pisces or it's in Aquarius. No, it's looking right here. It's in Pisces. Hi, every charts. But that dynamic alone is his opportunity to say, you know what, guys, I'm going to get this right. Right? Still sitting here in Aries. And Aries is a tough lesson, man. Having been born into a Chiron in Aries, just went through it a couple of months ago. I had to look in the mirror. I'd be like, all right, what am I doing here? By the way, also my 8th house. I feel for you. But the dynamic here is all about you recognizing, Donald Trump, that you just have to simply put it all away. You've lost. Your chart is literally telling you right now that you're fired. The game is up. The gig is up, my friend. It's over. You were 45, the symbolic 9 for purpose to the presidency, to this country. This country will not abide by someone being like this anymore. And as much as it's an interesting dichotomy to compare him to Biden, Biden is a stopgap, guys. He's an 80-something-year-old man about to go through his Uranus returns. This is his legacy. He's on his way out the door. Everybody else is running the show. Maybe if he had taken himself out of that and paid attention to Hunter a little bit more, maybe things would be different for that group. We'll look at that a little bit deeper. But I want to emphasize that this is a non-political look at a human that really needs help. He's affected a lot of people. He's hurt a lot of people. And as much as we are prone to celebrate when somebody gets their comeuppance, remember your compassion. Don't be a piece of shit like he was. Sorry, I said it. Recognize that you need to say, okay, you've done it. Are you sure? I'm going to tell you, I trust you, I don't trust you. I believe you, I don't believe you. That is your personal judgment. But in this moment, recognize that if this man puts forth an ounce of effort, celebrate it, because where he is in a really deep hole. That's why I think he's going to run, because nobody has ever held himself accountable. This is why we teach lessons to children. This is why we call people out for posting the wrong thing. Can you imagine if that was my reaction? I'm sorry, new moon. I'm sorry, new moon. I know what I'm talking about and you don't. Trust me, I have the smartest people around me. Well, guess what? Those smart people that I surrounded myself with were texting me overnight going, dude, did you notice this? You might want to address this. They care about me. Does anybody care about Donald Trump? Not according to this chart. This man is on an island. Have compassion for him. He is literally in the midst of a shitstorm. And he brought the country with him. All right, guys. Like and subscribe. Become a member today. See a bunch of the really cool content behind the scenes, some outtakes from classes. I'm loving this, guys. I'm taking off with it. Thank you for being part of my path here. Remember to simply keep going. And Donald Trump, I am actually pulling for you. Nobody else is. I am. Do the right thing. Just say, I'm sorry. You don't even have to say what you've done wrong. Just say, I'm sorry, so we can start to heal. So you can start to heal. Do something truly, authentically selfish. Do something authentically selfish. And take care of yourself by coming clean so it's no longer on your plate. Your chart's working against you on this one, but you're hitting your destiny. Thanks, guys. Here's the hard tap, and remember, keep going.